have a special guest who also happens to be my cousin, Natalie Kahale. Hi, Nat.
Hi, Nicole. So nice to see you.
You too, you too. And the reason why I asked Nat to come on the show today is because I really feel that she has some inspirational insights that she can share with everybody. And I know we have a few topics we want to discuss today, but I thought I'd give Nat a chance to introduce herself and say a little bit about you.
Okay. Hi, Nicole. First of all, I want to congratulate you on your endeavor to bring people into connection and conversation about things that are really important. I think things that people are more and more aware of, but to talk about them in a real way and sharing story, I think is really, really great. So thank you for the opportunity and the platform. And I know that you'll have much success with this content. About me, I don't know. I'm a mom. That's the thing that's most important to me right now. A new mom. I have a boy and a girl, a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old. So that is really my world right now. But I'm also a career woman, and I love my job. Love. I work as a consultant, and I love it. And I'm a wife, married to an amazing man, and it's my second marriage. So, first marriage was ended in tragedy, as you know, and so I've had to rebuild my life. And it doesn't define who I am, but it is part of the experience that I've been through. So it's given me some amazing life lessons that I hope to share with you today. I feel like I'm 85 years old with that experience, in the sense that I look at the world in a completely different way that I may not have before. I took some things potentially for granted before that experience, and did a lot of learning and work to heal. Always been connected to mind, body, soul. It's just part of who I always have been, but in a much sort of more intense way through this experience.
And Nat,
am I touching on the things you want to hear?
yeah. And just for the listeners, if they don't know what had happened to your first husband, do you mind?
Yeah. So, well, his name was Philip, and we were married almost 2 years, and he passed away he died in a truck accident. So he was just on his way home, and he didn't make it home. So, we saw him that morning and then never saw him again. You saw him at Christmas that year and then never saw him again, right? So it's such a final thing to experience. It's like my whole world was completely, just lifted up from under me. And I had to kind of relearn and remember that I was a whole person before I met him. And then my experience with him now became part of my world and my life moving forward. So I've been able to do that through a healing process, and I can share what you'd like in that sense, but that's the story essentially.
Yeah. And that was my next question was, do you think that Phil's death had sort of sent you on this path of healing and learning a little bit more about body, mind, and spirit connection? And
I have to say I've always been connected and interested in that. So it wasn't new for me. Like, I had been seeing shamans and psychics and working with oracle cards and lots of yoga and all of those things, lots of meditation prior to his death. Actually, one of the things we used to do together is he would play guitar and I would meditate and do yoga. Like, nice. So it was always part of my life. Yeah. But I actually using them as tools to heal was new for me, because I had never experienced such a traumatic experience. And so I never, needed them for that purpose. I also used conventional therapy. So for me, it was a combination. I also used sport. So I entered into half marathons and running and did some physical training as well. So it was like it was a mix of community, right, connecting with people, friends, always been very open. I also, did sport, conventional therapy, and conversations, psychotherapy. And then also I did my psychic development. I did my oracle card training, worked with shamanic healing. So I did those things. So it was like a combination of things that I would say. And I also developed my own, like I did a bunch of talks on it. So for me, part of my healing process was to share my healing process.
Right.
It's not for everybody. I'm a total extrovert. You know, that's just who I am. And I think out loud. And so that experience of doing keynotes, you know, talks about what I was going through and how I was, you know, essentially what I've called experiencing post-traumatic growth rather than trauma.
Right.
You know, that experience, to share it was really, really powerful. So to me, that was the combination of all of those things. And just living in it in a different way every day, talking about it. Like for me, there was nothing to talk about him. Like it's not an issue anytime with anybody, you know, who would let me.
Yeah. That's important.
And even my current husband, you know, as much as I needed to talk about it, and, you know, on the anniversary of his passing, when I had a hard time, you know, it was the 8th anniversary and I had a really hard time. Didn't the year before. It's ebbs and flows, right?
Right.
And my current husband was there for me about that, to talk about that, you know. So yeah, it gives you a sense of the spectrum of support. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and for those I watched one of your videos that was recorded, I think it was by W3, the Ottawa event.
Yes, that was an event in 2013. I did that event in 2012 and in 2013. In 2012, I shared insight on my first, and that one's not on YouTube. Okay. The 2012 one's not on YouTube. It was filmed for television, but I shared my first year after his death. Essentially, you don't get a first year again ever. You don't get the first Christmas, the first Valentine's, the first memory of whatever ever again. It happens only once. So, but I shared essentially the first year, our story together in our first year. The second talk in 2013, and this shows you the pace of healing I was in, was about hope. It was about leaning into life, opening my heart to love again. Yes. That was the conversation. And it was a much harder talk to do, to be honest. Like the preparation, the psychological preparation, the healing that needed to happen was a lot more. And it took a year before I was actually ready. So like 2013, fall of 2013 was that talk. And I met my current husband fall of 2014. So it took a year. Like we have to give ourselves time, right? Right. It took a year to be really ready. And it's actually, my current husband saw that video. And it was one of the things. Yeah, it was one of the things that made him want to meet me. A friend of ours was matching, where they were matching us. And of course he searched me. By happenstance, wasn't even looking for my video. He had no interest in dating. Saw the video and said, I need to meet her. And then we essentially wanted to get married after one day. But he had gone through his own near-death experience, his own personal, he'd be a good one to have on your show. Yeah. You might not know this about him, but he had major surgery, near-death experience when he was 19. And so essentially Harvard Medical School wanted his body for science. So he survived his surgery, Fast forward, we meet in our late 30s, and we see life in a very similar way, right, where you don't take anyone or anything for granted, and you know there's no guarantee in terms of the time you have forward. So there's no wasted time or wasted energy on things that are just not important. And that's just how we are together. And we didn't waste any time. We, got married, bought a house, had 2 babies within 2 years. No wasted time.
When you know, you know.
And, out of that, the big, so in 2013, that talk, so if you want to send people to it, they can see it, where I'm telling the world, I will love again and I will be a mother, because it was a dream for me to do that. And here I am today, and I am. And so it's the idea that you need to be clear about what it is you want to create in your life in order for it to manifest. But you have to have full faith. There can be nothing in your way. And I was not going to walk around the world as a widow.
Right.
As a victim. It was not happening. I was too stubborn. And I'm not criticizing anyone that's their view, and that's okay. Everyone has their own journey, right? And their own, but I just was not the only way I would write widows for tax purposes, because I had to. Like it was not who I was. I was not standing in that role. And Philip would not have wanted that for me. He would not have wanted me to walk around the world like, and don't get me wrong, you go through phases. Like I walked around the world going, why are you alive? And why are you alive? And why are you alive? Phil's not alive. He deserves, you guys don't deserve. Like, I had that, those feelings for sure.
Yeah, that's natural. And so a comment that you just made was, you have to be really clear on what you want in life and just go after it. And what would you say to those people that have a dream like yours, or any dream really, and doubts come in of oh, that's never going to happen? Or what would be a tip that you would give somebody to sort of get past
out
those
of
doubts?
that? You have to get out. And I did actual fire ceremonies to get out of that.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, it's very simple. You light a candle or any fire. It could be, if you have a beautiful, fire pit or something, that's amazing, but you can do it with a candle. And essentially you bring yourself into that meditative state, where you are essentially getting into the space between your thoughts, right? Okay, the yummy, yummy, yummy space. And then it's going to sound complicated, but it really isn't. You just essentially take the thing that's nagging on you, that's just taking that space that's unnecessary, because you're aware of it. And this is around observing, right? Stepping back and looking and zooming out and going, what's not serving me right now? What is just not helping me move to where I want? And sometimes we're aware of it, sometimes we're not. And I'll give you an example of when I was not aware of it. But essentially, as soon as you're observing yourself and you are aware of that thing in your way, you can decide to collect it, thank it for the purpose that it had, because it had a purpose. It protects you. It had a purpose, but now you're aware that you don't need it anymore. And you move it into the flame. And you take in beautiful white light. I'm doing like the movement here. This is, you take the beautiful white light and you bring it and you replace it. And you essentially, it's a ceremony. It's ceremoniously letting it go. And it might take more than one ceremony, but it works. But you have to trust. You can't, these are the kinds of things you have to experience, trust, have full faith, and then see. You need to be able to see if it's whether you write it down or you use photos, but you need to be able to see and create what it is that you want and have full faith that the universe will align for you.
Right, right.
But some things you need to let go. The things that are in your way, you have to let them go.
Yeah, you do.
You do. And the thing is like, we can stay on to those safe situations and safe things and just hold, because they're known. They're known. It's safe. Okay. But if you're not fully actualized.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, meditation has been big in my life as well. I do a lot of the Dr. Joe Dispenza meditations. And the very first one was similar to that, where I had to let go. And it was a 4-week, I did it every day for 4 weeks because it was a 4-week program. And it seemed to be every 7 days I had a breakthrough.
Oh, and it's a process.
I was like crying, and it was just
healing.
It was crazy.
Yeah. Crying and, is healing. It's like, and it's a process. And you'll know right before you have a really important encounter or talk or training or learning, you might go through something and then you experience it and then it has to integrate. And we're constantly evolving. And you get to a place where you've done enough self-work, because it is work, but I like it. I like doing it. I feel good about it. But then you get at a place where you can anticipate. So like an example, when I went back to work after my first baby, I was anticipating, how am I going to balance it all? Like, I love to have an organized house. I like to have, meals organized, prepped. I like to take care of myself. I like to be a good mom and be around with my kids. So I was like, what is it? How am I going to balance it all? So I did a shamanic ceremony, essentially meet my actualized self. And essentially, she's there. She exists. She's already me.
Right.
Right? So, but it's like a reminder of seeing who she, and because this is going to sound kind of crazy, but you have to actually go through the process to then see her. And so every time I was not in line with her, which is myself, I notice it. And I'm going, this is not serving me. and this thing I can correct. And we're like, there's patterns, there's behaviors, there's just things that we do without even being in full observation of it. We're just, so, and it's not fully present. Many stressful situations, it's because we're not present. We're fearful of something in the future, or we're clinging to something behind us. We're not really in the moment. So it's the work that these, it's just, there's ton. I mean, I could give you tons of, I'll give you an example. One of the things I wasn't, so when I was, some of the work I did, so with my one of my shamans, because I have more than one. With, because you get different things from different people, right? But just before Jonathan and I, which is my current husband, were going to get married, there was a blockage around the kind of ceremony we wanted. We knew we wanted our life together. We knew we were on the same path. But in terms of the wedding ceremony itself and guests and all of that, we were not on the same page. I wanted a huge wedding. He wanted no people. Like, it was like we were just
total opposite.
He was like, let's go to City Hall, let's elope. And I was like, no, I won't. Everybody, I know I want to celebrate this. We were on totally different pages. And even for venue, like and I was like, do we really want to get married? Like, we're just like crossing, right? And then I did a shamanic healing, and it came to my awareness, and I didn't realize this, that the minute I marry Jonathan, essentially my marriage to Phil, although is no longer when he dies. You're not married at, like, this is a whole thing you learn when your husband dies, is you're not married anymore. But anyway, whatever. Right? It's crazy. But by law, you're not married anymore. That's why they call you a widow the next day. Free you system. Anyway, right? But the idea is, I was referring him to it was my husband who had died. It was my husband. Well, now he's going to move into my husband, someone else.
Right.
So by marrying him, that was no longer. And it had to be that way. It has to be that way. But we had an energetic block. And the minute I did that, the minute I had that observation, became aware, did some work. When I say work, ceremony, meditating,
right,
long walks in nature, get out in nature, connect. We are a disconnect, like, get into nature. Look at the sky, people, look at the sky,
I know.
The minute that happens, and it's like that week we found our venue.
Right. Amazing.
And it's energetically, we're in our own way sometimes. So when it's like sometimes we don't know what it is exactly, but when there's some sort of a blockage, it's telling you something. It's a reflection of what's happening inside, even if you don't know.
Yeah. And oftentimes you don't see it until you do take that step back and you do that meditation, or you do something, go out in nature and just sort of, be silent, you know? So your ceremonies, do you go somewhere to do it, or do you do it at home?
No, I do it at home.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes I just do it in my head, in nature, but I do it at home. If I was actually to just light a candle and do it at home.
And do it at home. So people at home can do it. And
oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Take a candle. Just sit there and just, it's symbolic. It's the gesture. It's energetically, you're letting go and you're bringing in light and it's trust that whatever is best for your higher self, whatever is best, trust, yeah.
And that, I think a lot of people have a hard time trusting their own intuition and trusting.
Oh, I know. I know. Now there's a mix of things, right? Like, I'm not the one that's like, trust and don't do anything. It's just going to show up. No. I'm not of that mindset. I'm of the mindset that you need to show up in life. You need to put yourself forward. You need to be vulnerable. If you have not heard the Brene Brown talk on vulnerability, like, hi, wake up, get out of the rock and listen to that, because it is about everything that's important in terms of being a human being. Right? And it's the idea.
It was amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. It just helps us understand why we feel shame, and it's just really important to understand those concepts. To me, it's a fundamental thing, but you have to show up in life. You have to try. You have to not everyone's going to like you. Not everyone's going to be on the same page as you. Not everyone's going to, and who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? It's really about just showing up in life the way you are fully. I mean, what if you don't have tomorrow? What would you do differently today? So like, I don't know if you've seen the movie About Time.
No.
So it wasn't a super popular movie. I just loved that movie. At the end, they really show kind of what it looks like to show up, to engage and connect with the person serving you your coffee, to connect with your spouse before you leave the house, to look at each other in the eye and have an actual conversation. That's life. To get to your child's level and understand what they're trying to tell you. Like, those are game changers. It is a game changer to listen in a meeting and see what are people really talking about.
Yeah, to be fully present.
Be fully present. And I think things like creativity, intuition, your gut feeling, all of those things, I mean, everyone has access to that. Everyone. You know, not everyone's a genius in math, but everyone has intuition. No, it's true.
It's very true.
So, and everyone can ask, how may I best serve today? Use me. This is an Oprah. I learned this from Oprah. She essentially, before she goes in front of her, and I host a television show, so I learned, like, I sort of copy Oprah in the sense that I wanted to absorb everything that she does. So kind of like, I don't know her personally, but as a mentor, as someone I just admire everything that she's done, right? Especially people have labeled me as the Ottawa Oprah, right?
And yeah.
Biggest compliment I could ever, whatever, right? I'm alone, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I just love her. And but it is something that she has said is, use me as a vessel to serve. And yeah, like, you know, yeah, what can I do today? What can I do today? How can I be connected, present? And I'm not always perfect. Sometimes I lose my patience and I go, no. This is showing up this way. Check in. And you physically feel your intuition. Like, we're disconnected from our bodies. When you say mind, body, spirit, our body, like when you get a chill, do you know a shiver, a chill? It could be cold outside, or it could be something telling you that it's a truth. That's actually confirmation is a chill. You've experienced that.
Many times.
But some people just, they shrug it off. Like, connect with that. Listen to it.
Yeah, that's one of my signs is I'll get goosebumps. My hairs will go up.
Yeah.
And then
that's not just you, man. It's a human being thing. You know? No, but it's true. We just don't all keep it in awareness, right?
Yeah.
And then everyone can develop their psychic abilities. It doesn't mean you're going to predict, but you can connect with energy. I personally have clear knowing. I've understood that I have clear knowing. I get clear messages and understand signs, and not everything's a sign. Right? Not everything's a sign. Like, I think that's some people might disagree with me. I don't think everything in the world is a sign. I think if you open your eyes and you've asked for a sign or something like, time on a clock.
Yes.
Light, a specific animal, someone you don't know giving you a specific message. I mean, there's the clouds can tell you stuff. I mean, like, your bubble bath can tell you stuff. You can go to, but I don't think every bird is your sign for you. Like, I think there's around being connected to what that message might be for you, what you might be looking for.
And I think you just know, like, I get a lot of signs too. And it's just, you just know, it's like, it's just, it's hard to explain, but.
And to practice it. So when I first learned about signs, because I was frantically, like, when he died, I was frantically looking for understanding. I wanted to know, I wanted to understand. It was changing the way I saw the world. So I wanted to understand. And a friend of mine who had lost her brother told me about signs. And she said, you can actually practice it. And it's really helped me. So I hope it can help someone listening. So if you've lost a loved one and and you want a sign, you ask for something specific. So she had asked for a pumpkin. I don't know why, but she just asked pumpkin. And 3 days later, a recipe book fell to the floor and opened up on a pumpkin pie recipe. She had said, like, and I'm getting a big chill just telling you the story. And then from that moment on, for a while, she needed signs to know that her brother was around. And she asked him for signs regularly. And they work really hard to provide them for you in this, and that
Right.
we can see it. Phil gave me all kinds of signs, tons. So like even now.
Still now.
Oh yeah. And they'll show, they'll come up randomly by surprise a few times, every few months or something. But it's very clear. And I know, and I did things like automatic writing.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
Yes, I did. So it's all depends on what you need.
Right.
But you can heal. And it's automatic writing. People don't know. You can do this in any state. It doesn't need to be because you lost someone. It can just be, it's a conversation with some people say a conversation with God, right?
Or God, higher self,
whatever.
Same thing, yeah.
But essentially, for me, it was a conversation with Phil. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
And it was, I asked him a question, and I just automatically wrote down what was coming without questioning it. This is the idea.
Just wrote it out, yeah.
I just wrote it out. There's no judgment. It's for myself to kind of download and understand. And there's things I wouldn't have thought of myself. Right? But you have to be open to it. It's like when you're reading an oracle card, it's what it tells you or how you interpret a message from someone. The meaning for you is what matters.
Right.
Anyway.
No, exactly. And it's different for everybody, right? So even for oracle cards too, like two people can see the same card and it could mean different things.
100%. And it doesn't need to be an oracle card. It could be a picture that you see.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a tool. These are sets of tools. The ceremonies, the oracle cards, the, exercise in nature. These are all tools. And we need to just be sleeping well, eating well, right? Connecting well, and aware when things aren't okay. So like, I'll give you a sense. Recently, I was consuming way too much news. Like I was like every night before bed checking it, and it was starting to, the number of shootings and murders, and it was starting to affect my psychology. It was and I felt like I'm responsible for my babies, and I just feel like, what kind of world are they growing up in? But this is not all that's happening in the world. And these things have always existed. And I don't want to be naive and pretend it doesn't exist, but let's just say I took off my news app. There's no more news feed on my phone because it's not healthy for me. I'm an empath. So I get emotionally connected to those situations. Right. I carry them with me, and they impact then how I see the world. And I don't want to instill that. So I shut it down. And through my husband was like, Nat, this isn't healthy for you. It's bothering you. You're not going to be able to sleep. And that was, but if I would have let it go and keep going and it causes stress and I'm unaware and I'm not connected to myself, you're just in a pattern. You're automatically reading the news. It feels like a normal behavior.
That's right.
But it's not like, and because of the algorithms, the more you're clicking on double murder and child drowning and like,
the more you see it.
All those things, right? And I'm just like, children left in cars, and I don't even know, like all of these things happening, right? Mass shootings, terrorism, like I can't even handle, like.
Yeah, I don't listen and watch the news.
Right? And it's not to say that I don't want to know what's going on. So I'll listen to the 4 minutes of news, like on the way in the car, and go, okay, we're still okay. Then move on to music, right? Or move on to a podcast. Because I personally want to kind of have a bit of an awareness, but it's like, if I know that's not healthy for me.
No, exactly.
Come to that understanding and awareness, then find a way to change that. It could be whatever, right? I'm giving news as an example. But it could be someone has an addiction to porn or too much alcohol or too much gambling or
anything that you're consuming, like
whatever is not letting you be your full self and your full potential. It's in your way. Mm-hmm. Shut it down. You have control of that. I mean, that's my opinion.
No, I agree with you 100%.
Or if you work too much.
That was my big thing. That was my big thing. Yeah.
I'm sorry, work will always be there. There's always more work, and there's always someone that can do a better job than you. So like, what are you trying to prove? I'm saying that, right? I'd be the first one to be like, before I had kids in the office till 10 p.m. for why?
Yeah. I remember 5 years ago when I was let go of my job at this company out in Toronto. The first week, I did not know what I was going to do with myself because I worked all the time. I didn't even know who I was. And I was walking around going, wow, like, what am I going to do now? I guess
it's your identity.
My identity was my job.
Not, and it's not.
No, it's not.
We are so much more than what we do. I mean, I personally, I'm a big advocate of loving what you do. And if not, finding a way, either through assignments or to love what you do, or through different education, finding something else. Like, I'm a big proponent of spending your time doing things that you love, and then also having hobbies that you love.
Exactly.
You know, my television show is a hobby.
That's right.
I coached for a really long time, synchronized swimming, just not recently because of my babies, right? Like, only so many hours in a day, but that was a beautiful hobby, right? Like, you have to have things I paint for a hobby. I do yoga for a hobby. Like, you have to things that nourish you, that fill your cup.
Exactly.
So you have to fundamentally sleep well, eat well, fill your cup, connect, love, let yourself, and stretch, do new things.
And do new things. Yeah.
Try new things. Yeah, try new things,
Make a list and just do new things.
New things. Live,
So one question that I thought would be a good one to ask right after this is, what would you tell a listener who they do want to try new things, but there's a little bit of resistance in terms of, I don't have time, I have 2 kids like yourself, where they can't seem to find the time for themselves?
Mm-hmm. I would actually suggest that that's really unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's an excuse. There's effort involved in taking care of yourself, because just like there's effort involved in taking care of someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to find your support system. So in order to do something and leave your kids behind, right? Because I would say then do something with your kids,
right.
And bring them with you if it's impossible, like
right.
do something new with them. But if it's really about needing some time for yourself, you find a support system that can allow for that. But that takes effort. It takes trust and time to get to know a babysitter, or, if you don't have family around, like I'm lucky, I have my family around, I have lots of support. So it's not a judgment, but I would say it's patterns and it's excuses, and our kids, I think, are better for it to not always be with mama, and I'm better for it that I've taken care of myself and done something for myself. And when I'm with my kids, I'm fully with my kids.
Yes, exactly.
I think it's healthier for everybody. I remember being at a wedding and this couple at my table, I didn't know them, and I wouldn't recognize them today. It was just the one time I saw them. They were out for the first time in 7 years.
Wow.
And I thought, I'm never having children. Like, if that's life, that is not okay,
Right.
But that's not who I am. I had a 4-week-old and I was hosting my show, but that's just who I am. Right. But it required, there was, growing pains. It was hard on my husband. It was hard on my mom who was helping. It was hard on me, but we got there. We figured it out, to each his own. But I think it's unhealthy not to take care of yourself. And I think it's healthy to take care of yourself, whatever that means. Some people need a spa treatment. That's what they need. Some people need time to go walk in nature.
Yes, definitely.
Depends what that is. Sleep, I keep saying sleep because I feel like it's something we neglect. I was the first one to, I was pregnant 2 years in a row. And when you're pregnant, my experience when I was pregnant, it's almost like your body's preparing you for irregular sleep patterns.
Right.
And so I was up a lot at night doing my Amazon shopping in the middle of the night, really it's a crazy thing. No, not crazy, but. And so it has to become now my babies are just starting to sleep through the night. So now it has to be a priority. I can't stay up till 1 or 2 in the morning just because that's mommy time. It's not healthy.
Right.
Right. And I think a lot of moms, like just having talked to a lot of moms, a lot of us do that. Right. Anyway, is that answering your question?
Yeah, no, that's good. I hear a lot of, a lot of resistance from a lot of people, whether it's, their work or their kids or whatever the case may be, that they always say they can't seem to find the time for self-care. And
it's a choice. It's a practice. I think if you're not used to doing it, I don't think you know how. Like, if you're not used to doing it, you don't really know how. And some people don't feel worthy of it. And I think, wow, then let's start in the basics. Like, we've got some work to do.
That's right. That's
because
right.
how are you supposed to fully show up, create the life you really want, engage in the things that are really meaningful to you, if you're walking around like a zombie trying to serve everybody else? Like, I think we have our responsibilities, but I think it's really important to take care.
Yeah, and make it a priority. I think putting it in your calendar, treating it like a real appointment, whatever it is, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah. And things will change. You're not always going to do the same things all the time in the same way. I mean, I don't know. That's not how I am. Some people might, but if
I like my monthly massage.
Well, there you go. There you go. That's amazing, right? And reassess. And I was the first one. I tried to go back to yoga class 3 weeks after I had a baby. It was not a good idea. I bruised my abdomen. Like, it was not a good idea. I wasn't ready.
Right.
I needed to wait. And so sometimes we have it in our minds that, we can do more than what's, rest is also part of taking care of
It's rest. You could take a bath. It's so.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So actually I do that. That's my, like, once it's, but more in winter time, but as soon as the babies are down, I'm in the bathtub.
Yes.
Me time. It is for me, that's the water, and just is my decompress, right?
Right.
That's important.
It doesn't cost any money, and just
it costs the water, but
the bubble bath. Awesome, Nat. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything you wanted to add? Something that maybe we didn't touch on that you might want to say? Or
well, I just want to say that I think everybody has their own story, and everyone has their own process. And if any of the things I shared today don't connect or relate to you, that's totally okay. We all have our own way and our own way of being in the world. And it's not because I did things a certain way that's the way to do it.
Right.
At all. And that's really around connecting with who you are.
Right.
And knowing yourself. Some people might just be, look, I just need to hide in a cabin and read a book and I'll be good. And I'd be like, oh my God, I need people.
You and I are totally opposite.
Right? And it's okay, right? So you can't go, oh, Nat did that, so I should do that. No way, man. Like, do what works for you.
Do what resonates.
Yes.
And you won't know what resonates until you start doing it, and then you'll feel it. Like, you feel it in your body. Yeah, no, for sure. Well, thank you so much. And where can people find you? Are you on Instagram or?
I am, with my name, Natalie Kahale.
Okay, just in case people want to connect.
And, for sure, anytime.
And I'll link your W3 event in the show notes.
From 2013. Since then, I remarried and I have 2 beautiful babies. So
that's awesome.
I was able to create what I wished for.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Thank
you, Nat, so much.
Thank you, Nicole. Bye.
Bye.